help little kids push a stuck swivel chair, only to have a human head suddenly pop out and fly into the kids' toys. Who on earth would be so evil as to leave a dead body in the children's temple of joy? Soon after, the police received a report. In order to check for clues, the entire swivel chair was directly carried back to the police station, where more remains of the corpse stuck in it were found. It was determined through some human tissue that the deceased was a white male, based on the consistency of the blood on the brick chair. It could be inferred that the time of death was about 3 days. The ring finger of the deceased's left hand was cut off, and there was a mark on the finger that a ring had been worn, but the ring disappeared, so it is likely that the murderer robbed and killed the victim. After genetic comparison confirmed the identity of the deceased. The deceased worked in a financial management company, once because of their own mistakes, caused a loss of $5 million to the company. Then it is very likely that the company's owner revenge type of murder. The police found the deceased boss, but the other side said that although the deceased had caused losses to the company, but he later made $100 million for the company, so it would only go to thank the deceased. How could it go to kill him? However, the boss also provided the police with a favorable clue. The company's Gus has always been a deadly rival with the deceased, because the deceased often robbed Gus' performance before, but Gus faced with the questioning, but said he would not kill because of the performance. He is not so despicable. The forensic pathologist made a jigsaw puzzle of one of the broken bones of the deceased and found that the skull had been completely fractured and there were several cracks, and based on the shape, it could be inferred that the murder weapon should be an angular and sharp object. The police detected that the deceased had quartz sand from the amusement park and rust from the swivel chair, but the soles of his shoes did not have these substances, which means that the amusement park was not the first scene, but was dragged to the amusement park after the murder and thrown lost among the swivel chairs. Through the surveillance can be found. The last place the deceased had been in his life is not far from his company in a villa, and the owner of this house is actually a prostitute. The room also has a sharp candlestick, the shape of which is extremely similar to the head wound of the deceased. And the police also found the deceased's cell phone and ring from the prostitute's house, to which he explains that the day the deceased came to her to liberate her nature. But afterward, he said that he did not have enough money with him, so that the deceased then bet his belongings with Missy and went to collect the money, only to never return. The police tested the candlestick in Missy's house and found that there was indeed no bloodstain of the deceased on it, so it looks like she really didn't lie. The police then found an encrypted audio file in the dead man's cell phone, which required the iris of the dead man's own eyes to open. So the police came up with a brilliant idea. The police dropped a large amount of saline on an eyeball, which was originally dried and decayed, and soon recovered, and they succeeded in using it to unlock the encrypted file of the dead man's cell phone. The content was probably that the dead man's boss had asked the deceased to bribe a chief technician of the exchange, so that their company's computer closer to the main server. If the boss knew that this voice was recorded by the deceased, then it will certainly be up for killing. So the boss was once again taken as a suspect. When the police arrested him, they also found blood stains left by the deceased on the corner of his desk, implying that the corner of the desk was the murder weapon used to kill the deceased. Faced with questioning, the boss directly exposed his special fetish in order to prove his innocence. He took out a set of powerful photos, saying that on the day the deceased was killed, he had been exchanging emotions with this woman and had taken the photos as a souvenir, which was a sufficient alibi, and that his office never locks the door, so anyone could have committed the crime inside. On the other hand, the forensic pathologist found some jadeite fragments in the cracks of the dead man's shattered skull, and the police suddenly thought that their company's Gus was carrying an emerald ring. When they found Gus, they really found the ring mutilated and blood-stained, and in the face of conclusive evidence, Gus was powerless to argue but had to give an honest account. It turned out that the day he worked overtime, saw the dead into the boss office to steal money. The reason is to pay a tip to a prostitute has always been innocent people advocate just discuss. The most cannot see this kind of meticulously behavior, and then grab the head of the dead smashed into the desk. Gus just want to give him a lesson. I did not expect to confiscate a moment, and then killed the dead, and then after the incident can only be the body thrown into the neighborhood of the